Here's the thing. We're in Lent, and Lent is a time really where we reflect on like pain and suffering. And the thing is, we're human. There's going to be pain and there's going to be suffering. And sometimes there's more pain and suffering than we want to admit to other people. Um, I know personally for myself, sometimes it's easier to try to hide that, and that's okay. I'm not saying we have to tell other people, but we need to admit to ourselves when we have pain and suffering, because it's pain and suffering that we can unite to Christ. And when uniting our pain and suffering to Christ, we know that He suffered, He felt pain, He endured death, a terrible, horrific death, because He loves each and every one of us individually. And that really makes our suffering make a little bit more sense sometimes. Like, Christ suffered for us. So my suffering, my not feeling well today, my like terrible muscle ache, that's okay because it's nothing compared to what Christ suffered for me. So even though it sucks and it's hard to walk around today and like my shoulder is literally murdering me because my muscles hate me, that's okay. It's okay to admit to the suffering. You don't have to, but you need to yourself. So that way you can offer it back to God and say, okay, I'm suffering right now. Take the suffering. Don't let me complain about it too much. Let me just give the suffering to you so that it can become redemptive. And that's really what like Lentus reminds us too, that suffering can be redemptive, and it's not just something we suffer on our own. It's something that we unite to the suffering of Christ, and it becomes redemptive. So even though I might not be feeling great today, I'm being real honest with you guys. It's a Thursday, Thursday, and I don't feel great, but that's okay because Christ suffered so much for me that I can make it through my day, and I'll be smiling. Trust me, I try to smile all the time. Like, I'll be suffering, but no one else needs to know that I mean, like, I don't need to tell everybody I see, okay, I'm feeling terrible today, so excuse me for everything. I can just be like, okay, I'm living my life the best I can right now, and I'm doing all things for love of Christ. And in the end, whatever suffering we have going on in our lives, by offering it to Christ and saying, okay, you suffered for me. Now I'm suffering right now. I'm going to offer that suffering to you. It becomes redemptive. And so pain and suffering really gets united to the cross. And it doesn't become easier necessarily, but it becomes something that we can, at least personally, I know it's something that we can learn to like almost, I hate to say it, like treasure in a way. Like, we know that the times when we're suffering the most, are helping other people with our suffering, because we're not wallowing kind of in our suffering. We're able to um, like work through our suffering and offer that suffering for the salvation of souls. So I hope that kind of makes sense. Redemptive suffering is a really big topic, and this is just like the real brief part of it. So just remember today, like, to think about how you've offered your pain and your suffering to the Lord, and how you unite that to His suffering, because He suffered for you. He carried a cross up a hill while He was beaten and bloody and bruised, and He died for you. So I think we can make it through a little bit of pain and suffering. God bless.